What specifically makes a good gift? Because it's not, again, you like so often as churches, as businesses, we give away all kinds of stuff with our own name on it, and it's like, no, that doesn't feel like a gift. It feels almost like an obligation. Like now
manipulation.
Yeah. So what makes a good gift?
Yeah. So a couple different things. One is the timing matters. Most people give gifts. They're like, hey, you gave me a referral. I want to give a gift. That's not a gift. That's a reward. Like somebody gives you a referral and it's a $100,000 referral, or a church gives you a donation, you give them some token. Like you would never say, hey, you're a token relationship. Why would you call your gift a token? Usually it's because it's a sucky gift. It's an excuse, like a token of my appreciation. No, it's that you're making an excuse for giving like a tchotchke. And so it needs to be at the right time. Like you don't give gifts at transactional times. You don't give gifts at Christmas. Why? Because everybody does it. You don't give gifts at birthday. Why? Because it's expected. So most people give their gifts, they wait for their employees to work for you for 50 years and then you get the gold watch. Disgusting. Give a gift when somebody shows up for the first day, before they even show up for work. We give nicer gifts to our interns than most people give to their 10-year employees. Why? Because I want them to show up excited to engage, not wait for them to work. Like, you realize that an employee that works for you for 10 years is 20,000 hours before they get to pick some crap out of a catalog from China, like that they could buy at Target for $17. That's your act of gratitude for somebody that's put in 10 years of service with you. It's disgusting. It's gross, but nobody's ever been called out for that. So the timing matters just as much as like if you give your wife only gifts on anniversaries, birthdays, Christmas, do you earn any brownie points? No, those are you better. Those are table stakes. But all we do in business, and especially as Christian leaders, it like we'll be really generous with our charity, really generous with our family, really generous with our church, and then like our employees, our donors. It's like here's like you gave $100,000. Here's a water bottle with with our logo on it. Like, are you out of your mind? Like you're basically investing dollars to say you don't matter. You weren't worth the time. You weren't worthy. Like it would be better to send a handwritten note that you took an hour to write than to send some sort of like cheap token swag trinkety tchotchke. But it feels mean, especially in Christian spheres, to be like, I actually thought less of you as a human when I received your trinket. Like you actually devalued the relationship. Hey, here's a $25 Amazon gift card. Go buy what you want. Like, gross. And so the timing matters. It needs to be something that includes the whole family, ideally, because most of the time, like you travel, I travel, I get treated like a king. You probably, like if you're at a conference or an event, you get treated really well, right? You're not staying at the Motel 6, you're not going to McDonald's. And yet, who gets the worst side of being in business? As a church leader, as a nonprofit leader, as a business leader, usually the family, the kids, the spouse, the assistant, the team.
Yeah.
And so the reason we do the knives, which sounds so stupid and silly, but I've had wives that their families are worth 8, 9, 10 figures come up to me or come up to our clients and they're in tears. And you're like, why are you crying? You're like, this is the first time I've ever received something in business that wasn't cigar related or golf related or wasn't just focused on my spouse. It included me. It had my name on it. And that's the other thing. No logos. Like, unless you're like the Cubs where your logo adds value. And even then, I tell the Cubs to put the logo as small as possible on the back. Why? Because like you think about the best brands in the world, like Lululemon, how big is their logo? It's the size of a dime, tone on the back of the shirt. Classy people don't want your mission statement, softball size logo on their chest or on their vest or anything else. They may wear it once a year at the charity golf event to make you feel good, but the other 364 days they're washing their car with it or they're going to give it to Goodwill because they don't want your logo. They just don't. So the logo matters, the personalization matters, the handwritten note that provides the meaning and context matters, the timing. And oh, by the way, like people don't need more crap in America. Like during the pandemic, Goodwill had a mile-long line getting rid of all the swag, all the little things sitting on the shelf. People want useful, unique, practical things. The knives work really well because most people have sucky knives. Most people don't have a handmade piece of cutlery with their name, family name, maybe their favorite Bible verse. They want something that's useful, not to collect dust on a shelf. They don't need more sugar. They don't need more wine. if you can do something that's practical and useful that includes the whole family, now you're starting to get somewhere where people are like, wow, this was intentional, this was thoughtful, like those are, and if your audience wants to download the 10 worst gifts to avoid giving, they don't have to go buy the book. They can go to The Givers with an S, thegiversedge.com. They'll get sent the 10 worst gifts for free. And then some of the best articles that we've written in like Forbes to talk about like how to be more thoughtful, more intentional. And that's whether you're, one person company, a charity, a church. People will ask me like, John, like when I spoke at Google, they're like, does this work in technology? And I'm like, I started laughing. I said, are there human beings here? And they said, yeah. And there's like 80,000 of us. I'm like, well, it works. It works in Idaho, it works in Africa. It's like how God's wired us. When you're thoughtful, when you're radically generous, when you're intentional, when you make it about the person, when you don't give to get, you give to give. When you understand the law of the harvest is real, like all of a sudden, like that unlocks things but it doesn't mean it's going to happen in 3 days. Like the long game is, decades. Most people play the long game, talk about the long game. It's even in non-Christian circles, like Vaynerchuk and all these guys, it's like most people play it in days.
Yeah.
Like I did this, now I better get this. I'm like, that's not how God's wired the world. Like you might have to sow a few seeds. You might have to water the seeds. Some of the things may get eaten by a crow, and you just have to like move on and not like keep score. And so I think that the mindset of like not just what you're giving, but all of the details around it, and then realizing like this isn't tactical. This is who we're called to be at a heart level. Like you can't outgive with your generosity and be a total jerk in these other ways and think that like that covers your sins. It doesn't. So it needs to be who you are in all your other areas. But then if it's who you are or strive to be, and then you do it, the what is part of it. The timing is part of it. The personalization is part of it. It's like people will come to me and be like, John, it didn't work. And I'm like, did you follow the recipe? And they're like, it was Giftology-ish. I'm like, if you bake bread and don't put yeast in, don't expect bread. If you don't follow the parts of the recipe with relationships, don't expect to get more growth and donors to be like blown away if you're doing it half-baked. Like that's just not how like things work.